Welcome to the Tell Me Something Good podcast. Ranked by the International Association of Awesome Podcasts as the best podcast in the history of podcasts. Wait, is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing. Anyway, seeking to shine a light on all that is good in an ever-darkening world of negativity. Here's your host, Clint Swindall.
Hey everybody, I'm Clint Swindall, and this is the Tell Me Something Good podcast, the show that is all about creating a more positive world by overcoming negativity. It is my goal each episode to engage your mind, encourage your heart, or enlighten your soul. I am happy you are here. This is episode number 13 of the Tell Me Something Good podcast, a guide to crazy good gratitude. Before we get rolling, I just want to take a second to say thank you. We started this podcast and had no idea what to expect. Since we're new to the podcast world, we didn't know if we'd have a single listener. As we've done our best to track the number of downloads and listeners, which isn't all that accurate or easy because of so many listening apps, we've surpassed anything we'd thought we'd have at this point. And for that, I just want to say thank you. While part of the goal of the podcast is to reach as many people as possible, we didn't start Tell Me Something Good for that reason. We started the podcast to spread some positivity to the world. As I say at the beginning of every episode, we started the podcast to engage the mind, encourage the heart, or enlighten the soul. If we've been able to do that, then I'll know we're doing something right. My hope is maybe we're accomplishing that since our numbers seem to be growing. So, if you've been with me since the very first episode and you keep coming back, thank you. And if this is your very first episode, welcome to Tell Me Something Good. Although I normally ask listeners to subscribe to the podcast or leave a rating or review at the end of the episode, I'll ask now in case you get distracted or need to leave early. Again, thanks for taking the time out of your busy life to hear some good stuff on this podcast. You have no idea how much I appreciate each and every one of you for listening. And speaking of appreciation, we could all use a reminder of all that we have to appreciate in these uncertain times. Some guy on one of the bad news cable channels today was talking about how everyone is facing adversity because of the global pandemic. The focus of his segment was on what everyone is losing. Investors are losing value in their stocks. Small business owners are losing their businesses. Citizens are losing confidence in their government leaders. After about a minute, I started losing interest in his doomsday report. Look, there's no question we're facing difficult times. When we face adversity, we have several options. Throughout my life, I have noticed that most people select one of two choices. One, they focus on the hardship itself. They sit in it, wondering why the bad stuff always happens to them. I spoke back in episode 6 about our need to stop wallowing around in the crud. They worry about things that haven't happened yet, creating a higher level of anxiety about the unknown. And if they don't want to do it alone, they join a pity party in order to surround themselves with people who are fixated on the difficult times. It seems misery truly does love company. For those who don't allow adversity to consume them, they choose the second option. They take the opportunity to stop and identify what's working well in their life. Being grateful in the face of adversity doesn't come natural to many people, particularly when there is a great deal of uncertainty. However, this is often the most critical time for us to focus on what we appreciate the most in life. We have a holiday coming up, Independence Day. While I love Independence Day and all it represents, a part of me wishes it was Thanksgiving. You see, I love everything Thanksgiving represents as well. It's all about appreciation and all the awesome food. At a time when most people wake up each day to determine how much they've lost, we need a holiday right now for us all to stop and identify those things for which we're most appreciative. Like everyone else, I've watched the roller coaster on Wall Street and the devastated economy. I've made the adjustments that I hope will be adequate to weather the storm until we get past the pandemic. And through it all, I've pushed back on the temptation to wallow around in the misery that the news channels so eagerly provide. And I do it for two reasons. One, wallowing around in the crud does absolutely nothing to improve the situation. And two, wallowing around in the crud does not allow me to lead by example. And now more than ever, people are looking for someone to lead. If I'm not going to wallow around in the crud, then it gives me the chance to stop and identify those things I appreciate. In order to truly give thanks for the important things in my life, I spent some time counting my blessings, literally, of what I appreciated. In fact, I created 3 lists, and I encourage you to do the same. Base them on these 3 things. 1. Appreciate what you have. So many people have spent a ton of time lately identifying what they've lost, and for many, it is a lot. Sure, finance is incredibly important, and it deserves our attention. While you're focusing on taking care of that part of your life, focus on all the things you have that you can't put into a bank account. If you're healthy, give thanks for good health. There are some people struggling to get healthy. There are plenty of people infected with the coronavirus, and many more are living with an ongoing illness. If you have a job, give thanks for that job. There are so many people searching for employment. With unemployment at record levels and business owners uncertain of what the next step in this pandemic will be, some of these workers will find there is no job to return to. If you have a home, give thanks for having a place to live. There are some people right now struggling to not lose their home. While we get through the tough time, and we will, it is imperative that we appreciate what we have. If nothing else, this pandemic has shown many people how quickly life can change. And 2, appreciate who you have. As we face tough times, it's easy to focus on ourselves. Perhaps one of the most important lessons I've learned in life is that I can get through any challenge when I have the support of great people around me. If you're sad, it helps to have a good friend who will lend an ear and others who will lift you up. If you're lonely, it helps to have a loyal companion who will give their time and friends who think enough of you to reach out. And if you're broke, it helps to have a rich uncle who will lend a boatload of money. Whatever your situation, appreciate who you have around you. And feel free to send the contact information for your rich uncle with the boatload of money. And 3, appreciate where you are. I'm proud of the country in which I live. Even when times are tough, there is no place I'd rather be. You see, I live in a country where every citizen has the chance to become active in determining solutions to its challenges. Not everyone in the world has that luxury. I live in a country where we can disagree with the solutions and voice that disagreement openly and freely. Not everyone in the world has that luxury. As we work through solutions, I'm glad I live in a place where all thoughts can be shared. So while I'm looking at things to appreciate, I choose to appreciate not just what I have and who I have, but where I get to enjoy it all. I'm not certain I've ever seen a time in my life where more people have disagreed so strongly. Look, it's no secret that disagreements in the U.S. are deep and significant. The issues being addressed have been developed over generations, and they won't be fixed overnight. From the severity of the pandemic to social divides, we are terribly divided. Some say we should all be wearing masks, and if we're not, we are reckless and don't care about others. Some say we shouldn't be wearing masks, and if we are living in fear. Some are in the middle and say, you do your thing and I'll do mine, with no judgment of others. And I won't even begin to address all the different sides of the race issues. All you need to do is pull up a news report or look at your social media feed, and you can see that for yourself. What you will most likely see is that some are in the middle of the battle, and some are sitting on the sidelines watching. Regardless of the role we've chosen, we still have another choice to make. We can choose to be consumed by the differences in the world and the things we don't have, or we can choose to be grateful. Gratitude is what is going to get us through the crud on the horizon. Not only will it help us through adversity, it will serve as a point of attraction. You see, when we possess a sincere appreciation for what we have, we increase the likelihood of attracting positive things into our life. And in times like these, we should be doing everything possible to attract more of the good stuff. It is my prayer that you take the time to appreciate the many blessings in your life, because when you do, you are keeping an eye on the good stuff. I don't listen to the bad news cable channels very often because there is seldom anything I hear that will improve my life. So I try to search out things that will encourage my heart or enlighten my soul by searching out some good stuff. It's out there if we're willing to go find it. When I find something that puts a smile on my face, I like to share it with you in this segment called
Good News from Around the World.
And here's what I found. As the world becomes more and more attentive to the importance of mental health, researchers are offering up an invaluable resource on how to give psychological first aid to a distressed person, and it is available for free. Johns Hopkins University is responsible for publishing a free online college course for conducting psychological first aid on people with depression, anxiety, or emotional distress. Since it was released to the public on Coursera, thousands of people from around the world have completed the course with more than 200,000 students currently enrolled. Not only that, it has become one of the most popular classes offered on Coursera. The class is taught by pioneering psychological expert Dr. George Everly, co-author of the book, The Johns Hopkins Guide to Psychological First Aid. The class, which is divided into a number of 30-minute and 2-hour lessons over the course of 5 weeks, covers everything from reflective listening to prioritizing and responding to life-threatening mental health situations. More specifically, the course covers Dr. Everly's Rapid Psychological Response Model, which is an acronym for reflective listening, assessment of needs, prioritization, intervention, and disposition. This specialized course provides perspectives on injuries and trauma that are beyond those physical in nature, reads the course description. The RAPID model is readily applicable to public health settings, the workplace, the military, faith-based organizations, mass disaster venues, and even the demands of more commonplace critical events, such as dealing with the psychological aftermath of accidents, robberies, suicide, homicide, or community violence. In addition, the RAPID model has been found effective in promoting personal and community resilience. What an incredible tool for helping those around us. And it's free. We can all benefit from learning how to provide a little psychological first aid to a distressed person in this stressed world. And then there's this. A Black Lives Matter protester is being hailed as a hero after he came to the rescue of a counter-protester who was injured at an anti-racism rally in London. Patrick Hutchinson's face has been featured on news outlets around the world since he was photographed carrying the demonstrator to safety during the protest near Waterloo Bridge. Hutchinson says that it had been the first anti-racism gathering that he had attended since the movement gained worldwide traction following the death of George Floyd. Although the event was meant to be a peaceful protest for police reform, fights broke out in London after counter-protesters gathered in opposition to the rally. It was pretty hectic, Hutchinson told Bloomberg Quick Take. It was almost like a stampede. It was lots of people. After Hutchinson and his friends joined the rally, he witnessed the white demonstrator fall to the ground following a violent altercation between the protesters and counter-protesters. Since the man was surrounded by people, he was unable to get up from a fetal position. His life was under threat, Hutchinson recalled. I sort of just thought, well, if he stays here, he's not going to make it. As Hutchinson's friends formed a protective ring around the injured man, Hutchinson hoisted him onto his shoulders and carried him away from the crowd. He then passed the injured man off to a nearby police officer who thanked him for his courageous actions. Since Hutchinson's gesture was also captured by Reuters photographer Dylan Martinez, social media users and government figures from across the political spectrum have hailed him as a hero. But Hutchinson says he simply wanted to do the right thing. I want to see equality for everybody. I am a father and a grandfather, and I would love to see my young children, my young grandchildren, my nieces, my nephews have a better world than I have lived in, Hutchinson told CNN. The world I live in has been better than my grandparents and my parents, and hopefully we can continue until we have total equality for everyone. Well said. And that, my friends, is some good news from around the world. It's almost time for the challenge. Before I give you a challenge to complete before you come back for the next episode, I need to tell you that this episode has been brought to you by Let's Talk Smack, an app that provides daily nudges to take your social media game to a whole new level. Look, we all know social media is where it's at when it comes to building a brand. The more you're out there, the more you're seen. People get tired of seeing what you're eating, and most people are tired of trying to come up with new things to post as they promote their business or personal brand. It takes an ongoing strategy to stay in front of your audience. The beauty of Let's Talk Smack is it provides you with an outline to help you develop a plan, then provides those daily nudges to keep you on track. Check it out wherever you get your apps. And now for the challenge. I want you to think about what you're grateful for. I want you to do what I did and create 3 separate lists. The first list should be those things you are grateful you have, whether it's a job or a home or an income or health. Take some time to create that list. Next, create a list of the people you have. Family, friends, colleagues, people in your life you can't imagine not having. Those who support you, those who encourage you, those who cheer for you. And finally, create a list of those things that make you proud of where you are. The freedoms you have and the opportunities you have, particularly those you know people around the world don't have. And here's why I want you to do it. I mentioned in the very first episode of this podcast that I've been asking people to tell me something good for over 2 decades now. The reaction is mixed. About half the people I challenge just stare at me with no answer. Literally, no answer. And I get it. We're so accustomed to the standard, "How are you doing?" greeting that we're not prepared to share something good. And quite frankly, most of us spend so much time thinking about the things that have gone wrong in our lives because of the negativity bias we all have that we aren't thinking about the good stuff. Being grateful brings all that good stuff to the top of your mind. My goal with Tell Me Something Good is twofold. One, I want you to enhance the conversation you have with people by challenging others to tell you something good. And I want you to train your brain to see all the good in your life. By building that attitude of gratitude, if you will, you are enabling yourself to never be a part of the 50% who can't think of anything good. And you're equipping yourself to help others when they simply can't see the good in their lives. To help, we've created a tool to guide you along. Jump over to findthegoodinlife.com to download the Crazy Good Gratitude Guide. Sometimes we just need a little something to get us focused on the good stuff, and this guide will help you do that. It's free, people. Get over there and download it. Whether you need it for yourself or someone you know, go check it out. Well, that's all for today's episode of the Tell Me Something Good podcast. Join us again for our next episode when we talk about celebration. The goal of this podcast is to get us focused on the good in our life. When we find it, we need to celebrate it. We'll spend some time chatting about how you can do that in our next episode. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. It's easy to get busy in this crazy world and forget to come back. If you're enjoying the podcast, leave me a rating and a review. It's like everything else in the world. We look around to see if others like something before we commit. A quick rating or review can be all it takes to encourage someone to click on this podcast for some encouragement in tough times. Oh, and we ran a contest for several episodes to encourage listeners to leave a review. For those of you who were kind enough to do just that, thank you. We received some incredibly nice comments. We said we would draw a name from all those who left a review, with the winner getting a Tell Me Something Good gift package. Well, we did just that, and we're excited to announce the winner is William Budwitt. Thank you for taking the time to leave a review, and a big thanks to everyone else who did as well. Also, if you'd like to share your good stuff or just ask a question to be featured on the podcast, jump over to findthegoodinlife.com. You'll find a button there on the main page to do just that, along with links to join us on social media. Thanks for listening. Until next week, I'll be praying for God to bless you in mighty ways. Now, get out there and love on somebody.
You've been listening to the Tell Me Something Good podcast. The content of the podcast is meant to engage, encourage, and enlighten you to become more positive. It's not meant to diagnose, treat, or replace the personalized care provided by a trained professional. If you're struggling with depression or mental health issues, please reach out to a counselor for diagnosis and treatment. Until next time, be positive, people.